Hey, I'm back, and this is part 2 of my Conflix film night review. We're going to start off right away with Levi's film Heroed. This is another one of the films that I really liked the story, but I almost feel as if it would be better suited to a feature film. It takes a lot of inspiration from Kick-Ass, and it almost can't shed that, but at the same time it does, because I liked the lead in this film a lot more than I liked the lead in Kick-Ass. I found the character to be more likable, and the young actor that you cast as the lead was also perfectly cast in the part, which for a superhero film is really essential. You have to cast the right actor for the lead role. I thought the action was good. It was a highly ambitious project, but I just feel as if it would have been better suited as a feature film, and that a short film format kind of meant that, things had to rush, and it was left a little unfinished. The next film we're going to get into is Drink Up, which is Hayden's film. This is one of the few comedies I've ever seen that has gross-out humor that I actually enjoy. Mainly because it's done in such an earnest and endearing way, and there's some really great jokes involved in the film, especially with the gross-out humor. It's a really fun premise to begin with, and that really helps in a comedy, is that you have a funny premise from the get-go, and this film has that. I also loved the animated sequence that covered up a lot of the audience explanation. I thought that scene was hilarious. I think I probably laughed harder than anyone else in the theater, because that scene was genuinely hilarious. It was original, it was a smart comedy, and it was probably one of the more entertaining films of the night. The next film we're getting into is a complete shift. We're getting into a horror film with Cody, which is Helen Paul's film. I really liked this film because the premise is so old school. And with ghost stories, a lot of people could be tempted to go the more Paranormal Activity route or a more modern direction with the film. But this film is decidedly more old school. It decides to build on dread rather than on jump scares, and that really works with your the wintry setting of Thunder Bay, is in that it is really dark and it's gloomy, and that helped to make the film scarier. And I also think it was super ambitious to try all the special makeup effects, and they all worked, and they could have gone really wrong and looked really cheesy, but they looked amazing. They looked super gross, and it was a really entertaining, very creepy film. The next film is a comedy, a very dark comedy. It's Aiden's film, Cold Sores. It's the kind of subject that you might not think you could tackle in a comedy. In this case, it's tackling a devil cult. But this film manages to be absolutely hysterical in such a wonderfully dark, offbeat way. I really like black comedies. I love that they tackle subjects that might not normally be funny if handled in a different context, but this film manages to be hilarious. Especially with Conflix student Jamie Wilton. She's in several other films. She's hilarious in this film, as is the entire cast, and I really liked it because it tackled such dark material, and I really think that that was quite ambitious. It ended a little abruptly, but I think that also adds to the jokes in the film that it did end so abruptly. The next film is another action spoof. There were 2 action spoofs this year. This one is The Cine Squad. It's a very knowing action parody. It knows pretty much everything you need to know about action movie cliches, and it also knows about filmmaking. And I think that's probably the reason why I like this movie so much, is that it's spoofing something that the director obviously loves. And there's also great chemistry between the 3 leads. Rick Stoles, who's a Conflix film regular, Conflix film student Casey Pelletier, and Lena Greer. They all have amazing chemistry together, and the action is actually very well executed for a short film on such a minimal budget. I think that it's exciting, and it's super funny. There's some great one-liners in there, and also some great jokes on how the film industry treats action films in general. The next film is Reprisal, which is the first film I'm going to talk about that tackles really deep issues and pretty much manages to succeed in such a short time. This is Eugene's film, and it's probably one of the more ambitious films of the night. He tackles the issue of what's really important in your life in such an original way, And I think Mika Polke and Conflix student Sari Koronen, they do amazing work in the film together. And it becomes a very moving experience. It wasn't quite as moving as I feel it could have been if it were a feature film where the themes could have been more explored. But as a short film, I thought you did a fantastic job. The film was very moving and very powerful. Next film is Jacob's film, Prelude to Justice. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I love this premise. I think it's great to show us what happened before a character will become full-blown Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry. And I think that really is very ambitious, because some people might see the film as unfinished, but the film is called Prelude to Justice, so this is a lead-up to something that is going to happen. And I think the acting is really good. There's a great sense of unease aided by the Thunder Bay wintry surroundings, and also you used a squib. And practical gunshot effects make me so happy in this day and age where using CGI is so much easier and so much quicker. So the fact that you actually used a squib shows a lot of respect for practical effects, and I thought that was very fresh to see one, and also quite surprising. The next film is Claudia, which is Isabel's film. What happens in this film is that we get a classic film noir film. It's right down to the lead with narrating the whole film. A classic femme fatale. You've got the nasty bad guys, but you also have the wit that is so commonly found in film noirs. It's very, at times, darkly humorous. Parts of it are very witty. There's moments that kind of get the audience to laugh in spite of themselves. And it also tackles very dark issues. Issues that normally you wouldn't find in a thriller that would then go out on a limb to be witty. The next film is Alice in Wasteland. It's a modern-day retelling of Alice in Wonderland. And it works, I would say, about 90% of the time. It's a little short to cover such material as the Alice in Wonderland story, but all the references are hilarious. It really flies, and the message of the film is really strong. And visually, it's quite appealing. The sets and the costumes really work. I think the acting came across really well. And I really like movies like this that will take a story and twist it into something darker, and that certainly happened in this film. The next film I'm going to talk about is Reclusion, which is by another one of the advanced students, Evan. And this film is in the classic vein of a 90s thriller. It's got a great female lead performance, it's got a fantastic twist, and it's really tense. It's a nice build-up, it's a slow burn kind of film, but I think once the delivery is made, it pays off in a super huge way. So that's all for part 2. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos so far, and get ready for part 3, which will be released probably about 20 minutes after you guys finish watching this.